I made a video on piano about C minor, how you expand on C minor, what you can do with it, and all of the other chords that go with that minor chord, the diatonic chords that you might find in a song. And today, after a question from a YouTube viewer, can you do the same on guitar? I thought, yep, great. Now, it's quite a long video, as you can probably see on the timeline, but there are timestamps in the box below and also links to that piano set that I did, because actually a guitarist should have a knowledge of keyboard, because it helps massively with the theory and how to interpret something more abstract like this, the set of strings with just frets and dots. There's no pattern like on the piano. So, C minor, let's get started with that. We have bar at 3, but without the 6th string, and then an A minor shape, like this. Now, just as an explanation, the numbers that you can see on your screen are essentially fret numbers, starting with the 6th string. So the 6th string will have an X, then you get 3, 5, 5, 4, and 3. So that's your C minor chord. And all other chords that are mentioned here are basically in the same form. So here's my C minor. Nice, good quality supermarket C minor. But now we want to taste the difference from the supermarket. We want a C minor that's a bit more expensive. Now what I've done there is that I've taken that C there and lowered it to a B flat to give me C minor 7. Now on guitar, very often, if I play my C minor again, I've got 5 strings, but there are only 3 different notes there. I've got 2 Cs, 2 Gs, and an E flat. But I don't need all of those. I don't need 2 Gs, 2 E flat. I don't need that at all. In fact, you don't really need the 5th either, but we're going to work with that in a second. So I've taken my root note, my 2nd root note, which is the last finger, taken it off to reveal the note that's being played by the bar finger. I can also expand on that by bringing my last finger up to 6th fret on the 1st string, where I actually now I'm doubling that 7th to give it sort of more of an obvious minor 7. Now, while I've got my last finger free, I can start experimenting with the different extensions, different notes that you can play in C minor. Now, the C minor scale, that's C natural minor, whereas actually with this chord, the chord extensions, I'm going to use C Dorian, which does this. So we had that note there, the 6th note in C. Now if I had my C minor 7, I could put my last finger to give myself C minor 13. C minor 7, C minor 13. Now I can do all sorts of other things with that chord. I could bring my last finger to the 2nd string, the 6th fret, to give me my 11th. Now, the 11th, what that's actually done is, it's taken away my minor 3rd. It's taken away that E flat, which is really important in C minor 7. However, if you hear that 4th note, or the 11th, on its own, without the minor 3rd, it actually implies it. Because if you've got C major, which is that F and the E, if I play the F here and an open E, yeah, it's pretty maverick. Whereas if I play the minor 3rd and the 11th together, that's it's less dissonant than that other one. So what I've got here now is a C minor 11 chord. So I've got all sorts of choices now. I can move my fingers about to do all sorts of things. So I've got GarageBand running just a C minor groove, slow groove with drums and bass. So just armed with that C minor, not that one, because that's the E natural, I've got all sorts of things that I can do. Now, it's not necessary to have the 5th string at all, because the bass player has got the bottom C. I know this C is higher, but you want to leave the bass player the room to play a riff. So you've just got maybe 4 notes now. So if I do that, I've got that. Or I could put my bar finger just across 4 strings. Depends if you're playing a solo gig or not. If it's with a band, just stick with the top 4 strings, because you can get so many other rhythmic things with that. Now, that's a bit about C minor. We've managed to get C minor 7, C minor 13, C minor 11. There's a lot going on there. Now, the 11th here, I could take away my 5th. Now, just as an aside, now I mentioned this on the piano video, if you've got the root of C, the harmonic content of the makeup of that string includes this 5th. So you don't need it. That means I could have C minor 7, which is just a bar across with one finger that says it's a minor chord. I could do that. I mean, that's like a C minor 9. But there's no E flat there. But what you can do something like this. You can play that note. And as long as the E flat's there some of the time, the listener still knows it's minor. Even if they don't know the terminology, they're still latching on to that. So C minor can just contain all sorts of things. Now, if you want your C minor 9 like that, you can do this instead. Last finger across the first 3 strings, index finger on 1st fret there, on the 4th string, and then you bring your, although it's the root, you don't really need it. There you go. There's the root just for clarity. It's useful to have that GarageBand file playing. Now, you did hear an electric piano on there. I'm just going to mute it. So I've just got drums and bass only, which gives me freedom to put anything over it. So here's C minor again. Some other things there. I had this sort of chromatic run, and that's fine. Chromaticism is fine as long as you legitimize it. If it leads on to, something, then it's fine. If I go, that's fine. Whereas if I go, we're kind of getting into the realms of sort of deep musical mathematics and sort of modern jazz, but we're dealing with a sort of a rock and pop context here, and it's what you can do to make your recording sound more interesting. So there's your C minor. Now I could have my 2nd with my minor 3rd. That gives me true C minor with an added 9th. Notice the 7th has gone because I've used that string to play my 9th. So it's actually C minor add 9, not C minor 9, because C minor 9 implies that the 7th is there. There's your C minor 9. Where you have root, flat 3rd, there's your 7th, 9th and 5th. So you could have that where it's a bit of a stretch, but sometimes that can be really nice over your bottom C. personal taste. Of course, we're always playing for the song, we're always playing for the top line, so don't do anything too complicated. But with the rhythm of the guitar, with that sort of, you can be really sparse. And all I'm doing is just releasing the pressure of the chord shape in order to get the length of the note I want. So there's a bit about C minor. Now, the diatonic chords of C minor. If you're playing a song in C minor and you're just jamming away, if you know your diatonic chords, you'll have a better idea and handle of what's coming next. Now, we have this, C minor, which is chord 1. Then we have D half diminished, which is chord 2 half diminished. Minor 7 flat and 5th is the other terminology. And then E flat major. Now this is one of the most important chords in C minor because it's the relative major. If I go from C minor to E flat major, it involves me just moving my last finger. Like that. Then I've got chord 4, which is F minor. That's a handful, I could do that instead. But with this 4 notes, the 4 strings only, F minor could be this. Which means that my C minor to F minor is a much, much easier transition. And then we've got G minor, sorry, which is the full version of which is that, or the 4-string version is this, and that's fine. And then we've got A flat major, and then B flat major, or it could be this, with your 4 notes instead of 6, and then back to C minor. Now, chords 4 and 5, because of the nature of the C minor scale and the number of scales there are, I'm just going to explain that a bit. I did this on my piano video as well. If I do scales in C minor, what I'll do is I will name each note as I go through it. C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat, C. That's Dorian, or I've got C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, which is my natural minor, or I have my harmonic minor, C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B natural, C. Now, what happened in all of those 4 scales was that I had my 6th notes, which was A flat, could have been A. And my 7th note was B flat, but also B. This increases that sort of vocabulary of the chords that you can have. Now, if we consider chord 4, F minor, the most important chord in F minor is the A flat. But we could have had A. So, chord 4 being major is entirely legitimate in the key of C minor. The same goes for chord 5 because we had a minor and a major. So let's just recap then. We've got chord 1, chord 2, minor 7 flat and 5th, chord 3, chord 4, minor or major, chord 5, minor or major, chord 6, getting lost in my numbers, chord 7, and there we go. So the minor, you've got quite a lot of choice there. So now after that we've just got to work out basically how we're going to get these diatonic chords close together. C minor 7 or C minor, for example. Now D half diminished, it's a bit of a handful because I've got my bar finger rather, playing across 2 different frets, 5th fret here, and then catching this part of your finger on 4th fret with the rest of your chord. So you've got this. But you could take the root note away, which leaves you just with this. C minor, D half diminished, E flat major, F minor, G minor, A flat, B flat, C minor. That works quite well. Now I've got a backing track here which also has the diatonic chords in C minor, so that we can practice the shift between all of these chords. So. There we go. Now, chords 4 and 5 were minor there, but we could do the same practice by going C minor, and then you've got your D half diminished, E flat major, F major. Now, that does involve actually having to do that. And then G, and then A flat, and B flat, and C minor. Now, F major had an A natural in it. The nearest one to our C minor shape is there. But if we want another major third, we have to go to 7th fret here. Or you could play a D shape at 3rd. So you had C minor, D half diminished, E flat major, F major, and then G major, A flat, B flat, and C minor. Now, the reason why I'm hammering out this 4th and the 5th being major or minor is that we have another very common chord sequence that you can use, which is chord 1 minor to 4 major. It's a mainstay of the sort of the funk and the disco world, you know, if we consider uptown funk, you know. Now, I'm going to show you that in C minor. So far, we've been working with the A shapes, the A minor shapes. It's nice and convenient. You can get everything you want from there. You can also do the same sort of thing with the E minor shapes. There's your C minor. If I take my last finger away, I get C minor 7, which I can then replace. I can do a similar thing with the A shapes to reinforce the 7th, like that. I can also move it up here to reinforce that minor third. I can do a C minor sort of sus thing there. Do a C minor 13. Do all the similar things here. And I can also use just the top 4 strings as well. Minor 7, minor 13, you know, minor 13 with a 9. And it, generally speaking, just involves adding fingers to your main shape. Now, the other thing, the shape that I just played here, to do your minor, your first chord being minor, your tonic chord C minor. The reason I play it like this instead of that is that it's easy to get from C minor to F9. Now if I just go to my backing track for that, I've got C minor to F. Of course, there are other things, you know, rhythms and chromatics and stuff, but be quite straightforward, be quite simple with it. That was just too complicated. It didn't rhythmically gel very well. And also, if you've got somebody trying to sing a line, you don't want all this sort of mess going on underneath it, unless it's really quiet and really working with those hi-hats, perhaps. So I've got C minor 7. I could add my last finger to make that C minor 9, or C minor 13th. Now I've left the 9th on there because 13 implies that the 7th should be there, but that you can stick any of your extensions in on the way up. So usually you'd have your 9th and 13th. The 11ths are a little bit of a special case in major keys, but I could have my 11th as well. So there's my 11th, 13 and 9. Be aware that they might be in a different order, and usually are. I mean, there's no minor third there anymore unless I was to stretch that back so I could get that. But you know, you end up with this sort of cramp if you're trying to fit all these notes in. Whereas on guitar, because you've got these sort of transient chords, you are conveying that C minor. Now we've got other things like if I just go to my C minor again, so some extra chords now in C minor. We've got what some people refer to as the Hendrix chord. C minor 7 with a flattened 9th at the top. So C, E, B flat, technically D sharp, although some people call it E flat. But that's not really a sharp 9, that's more of a flattened 10th, which you'd never see in a chord sheet. But that is the shape. And you can use that in place of C minor. If I just go back to my chord of C minor here, there we go, C minor chord, there we go. So I'm just going to play that. At the E shape, that's your A shape, C7 sharp 9. And then we have the same thing here, where you have, this time you're using the 5th string instead of muting it as I did with the minor 7. I could add that. Now, obviously that's quite sort of muddy. That's better, but you could also put an inversion of this down, which is this. So that your C has now disappeared, but it's in the bass part. Now, yes, the facial expressions basically said that you can, end up with a little bit of a sort of clash there, a little bit of dissonance, which wouldn't suit all tastes. But it's all about that rhythm. It's all about getting that sort of rhythmic sort of impetus and intent behind your chords. So there we are. There's C minor with some diatonic movements as well, with some extra chords and extra little bits and pieces that will make your chords sound like delicatessen chords.